My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. These are the statistical geopolitical regions as defined by the United Nations. Northern America, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, Northern Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Central Asia, Eastern Asia, Southern Asia, Western Asia, Southeastern Asia, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, Australia, and New Zealand. Africa is broken up into 5 geopolitical regions: Northern Africa, Western Africa, Middle America, Eastern Africa, and Southern Africa. According to Bloomberg, Emerging Market Vulnerability Scorecard, the most vulnerable, number 1 is Turkey, number 2 is Argentina, number 3 is Colombia, number 4 is South Africa, number 5 is Mexico, number 6 is Indonesia. Number 7 is Brazil. 8 is India. 9 is Russia, believe it or not. 10, and it looks like a 9, so maybe they're neck and neck with the Philippines. So Russia's like neck and neck with the Philippines. Russia's actually behind the Philippines. 11 is Poland. 12 is Chile. 13 is Peru. 14 is Malaysia. 15 is China, 16 is Thailand, 17 is Taiwan, and 18 is South Korea. So there you have it. That's the Emerging Market Vulnerability Scorecard from Bloomberg Economics. And this was on Colombian peso affected as Lira crisis grows from the Bogota Post. Quick note here, usually when living in America, when we get news, we'll get news from the Middle East, and they will lump in Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, and maybe even Algeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, sometimes Somalia, in with Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan-ish, Turkey. That will all, a lot of times those will all be lumped in with news from the Middle East. But according to the United Nations, those are distinct geopolitical regions. Just throwing that out there before we get started. First, we start in Chile, then we're going to Colombia, and then Turkey. And then we're going to pick it up with Turkey and India tomorrow. Checking in with Chile. Santiago, United States Secretary of Defense James Mattis signed a cybersecurity agreement with Chile on Thursday in his first official trip to Latin America. A topic that is of great interest is cybersecurity. That is something for which Latin American countries are not well prepared, and we must recover lost time, President Sebastián Piñera said during the ceremony in Chile's presidential palace, La Moneda. Well, recently, a friend of mine had their Facebook account hacked by a South American. He also stressed Chile's desire to maintain its privileged relationship with the U.S. as two countries that share a commitment to democracy and human rights. For his part, Mattis said that this agreement recognizes the threats that our democracies face at this moment in this very disputed terrain. He's talking about cyber terrain. Beyond the agreement, Mattis said that the two governments have committed to collaborate on other matters of common interest, such as technological innovation in fields as diverse as military medical research or the development of drones. On the same page, Chile Piñera meets with Silicon Valley tech giants. And as I just said, my friend's Facebook account was hacked. There's Zuckerberg right there, Mark Zuckerberg, by someone, and I believe it was a group out of Chile. So this is what's happening right now. And just to say this, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, said that not that long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, that when it comes to missiles and bombs and planes and things like that, America's got everybody whipped. But when it comes to cybersecurity, we're on a peer-to-peer basis. Now, that was a couple of years ago. So pretty much the world has caught up, has realized the value of cybersecurity. And so this is a hot topic. Chile's President Sebastián Piñera met Wednesday with the leaders of Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google in the framework of a technological forum in the United States to analyze strategic alliances that allow the country to advance in terms of innovation and technology. So advancement, it's got to require some security. And there, of course, is Bezos, Amazon's founder. In the last stage of an international tour, the billionaire businessman participated as an exhibitor of the Allen and Company Sun Valley Conference 2018 in Idaho, attended by the main leaders of the largest digital industry firms. So Panera held separate meetings with Apple CEO Tim Cook, Google leader Sundar Pichai, Amazon founder and director Jeff Bezos, and Facebook president Mark Zuckerberg, among others. Panera said in a statement that during these meetings, alliances with Chile were evaluated in terms of health, education, modernization of the state, and digital economy. So that's what's happening, security and commerce in Chile. Something else that's going on. Santiago Stock Exchange fell slightly on Thursday as the purchases of external funds in leading securities helped offset the initial pessimism by the marked weakness in the price of copper, Chile's largest export. Copper prices plummeted to one-year lows in London due to the concern about the demand in the face of the growing trade dispute between the United States and China, the world's largest consumer of metals. Chilean 64 arrested for thefts at Thailand airport. Latin American leaders mourn Kofi Annan's death. That's what's up in Chile. And of course, you can always check the Santiago Times online. Okay, moving up to Colombia. This is the Bogota Post. Colombian peso affected as Lira crisis grows. Although 2018 seems to be the most impressive of the last 6 years in terms of economic performance, with an expected 2.6% growth and a 3% inflation, Colombia is still the most vulnerable emerging market after Argentina and Turkey. The peso has reached its highest price since U.S. dollar in 2018 this Monday, when it was trading at about 3,004 pesos per dollar on the Colombian Stock Exchange, 45 pesos more than last Friday's market price. A 100 pesos devaluation rally started last Thursday and was accelerated with the Lira back Friday, when the Turkish currency got a 14% devaluation, affecting all the other emerging economies. The surpassing of the 3,000 peso ceiling contradicts the experts who expected to reach 29.50 by the end of August. The Turkish lira crisis started at the beginning of the year with diplomatic tensions between Ankara and Washington, and was boosted by the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration over steel and aluminum. The currency has lost 50% of its value this year compared against the U.S. dollar and the euro. Fear spread between emerging markets investors, who immediately rushed to the exit, looking for safe havens, Swiss francs, dollar, and yen, for their assets. To put in perspective how one emerging economy could affect the others, this Monday the Lira devaluated 7%, triggering devaluation in other emerging economies' currencies, like Argentinian peso, 2.4%, South African rand, 2.3%, and Colombian peso, 2%. Why are the emerging economies having an economic turndown? Turkey is not the only one having big problems. The Argentinian peso, for instance, has lost 63% of its value this year, and 32% inflation is expected this year, which is especially unfortunate as Argentina already has the highest interest rates in the world. The MSCI Emerging Markets Index, which measures the performance of 24 countries, has dropped 19% from its peak in January. The main reasons for this negative performance are, first, investors' fear regarding the trade war between the U.S., China, and Russia, and second, the increase of interest rates in the U.S., which has caused a capital outflow from the emerging markets to the North American market, worsened by the credit bubble of countries like Argentina, South Africa, and Turkey, which have borrowed nearly $260 billion since 2010, according to the IMF. What about Colombia? Although 2018 seems to be the most impressive of the last 6 years in terms of economic performance, with an expected 2.6% growth and 3.0% inflation, Colombia is still the most vulnerable emerging market after Argentina and Turkey. This can be explained by the high external debt, 40% of GDP, the deficit in the account balance, and low governmental effectiveness, the lowest of the top 5 most vulnerable emerging countries, according to Bloomberg. It's clear that Colombia doesn't have the same vulture funds issues as Argentina, the diplomatic crisis of Turkey, or the high inflation rates of both, but it does share two distinct features with the two other countries. Colombia is highly dependent on dollar borrowing and has an increased deficit in the balance of trade. Since March, direct foreign investment has decreased from $913 to $446 million, while $299 million flew out of the country in portfolio investment following the high interest rates of the U.S. Still, analysts expect the Colombian peso to stay under the 3,200 rate until the end of the year, and a potential crisis seems far away as long as the new president, Ivan Duque, achieves his goals regarding the public deficit. This is a vulnerability ranking from Bloomberg. So the first most vulnerable is Turkey, the second is Argentina, the third is Colombia, the fourth is South Africa, the fifth is Mexico, the sixth is Indonesia, the seventh is Brazil, the eighth is India, the ninth is Russia. And I don't know why that's still a 9. Editing, maybe it's tied with Russia, the Philippines. So Russia's like neck and neck with the Philippines, and India is kind of a surprise. I thought that their economy was kind of hot right now, 4.8%. GPI inflation, government effectiveness, 0. There's that. Poland is 11, Chile is 12, that we just looked at. Peru is 13, Malaysia's 14, China's 15, Thailand 16. Taiwan looks like an 18, but I guess it's 17. South Korea is 18, unless they're like neck and neck. So I don't know. That's kind of because there's 2 9s, right? That looks like 2 16s, and that looks like 2 18s. So I don't know. Government effectiveness of Indonesia, 0.01. Brazil looks like it's got a negative score, 0.18 or something. India 0.1 something. That's interesting. And Russia is an emerging market at number 9. So that's kind of an interesting thing to turn up. This is why I do this, by the way. I'm looking for the stuff that's not being covered. I'm looking for what's going on under the surface. So that's by the Bogota Post, August 16, 2018. I have no idea. I have no clue about their veracity, how good they are, or any of that stuff. I mean, this is just, it looks legitimate. The Bogota Post. Okay, so this is breaking news in Turkey from Al Jazeera. This is about Turkey Lira crisis, things you need to know, where it started. It's what's happening to the Turkish lira. Its value is dropping against the U.S. dollar. Qatar announced it's stepping in with $15 billion investment into the country's finance markets and banks. It's being cast as an attack on the Muslim world, as sort of the West weaponizing the dollar and what it's all about. The crisis began after U.S. President Donald Trump announced via Twitter a doubling of steel and aluminum tariffs on Turkey as Washington pushed Ankara to release evangelical Christian pastor Andrew Brunson, who is being held on terrorism charges. U.S. President Donald Trump has demanded Brunson's unconditional release, describing him as a great patriot hostage, and has slapped sanctions and tariffs on Turkey, which have helped push the lira currency to record lows. Tayyip Erdogan has linked Mr. Brunson's release to the fate of Fethullah Gulen, a Turkish Muslim cleric living in the United States, whom he believed for the July 2016 coup attempt. Mr. Erdogan has raised tariffs on U.S. cars, alcohol, tobacco. Okay. All right, well, I was all ready to blame Donald Trump for this one, but no, Erdogan's an asshole, too. I forgot about this dude. General Flynn got in trouble because he was doing some consulting for the Erdogan government, and didn't claim that he was didn't do the foreign agent paperwork that he had to do, and he got in trouble for that. That's one of the things that he got in trouble for, which probably had to do with this cat right here. So Fethullah Gulen sits in a room at his compound in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. He has lived in exile in the United States since the late 1990s. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan blames Gulen for the last year's failed coup and is seeking his extradition. Well, you never know. He looks like a wily old dude, and so that's what this is all about. And I was ready to, say, wow, there goes Donald Trump again, setting the world on fire with a tweet. But it's not just him; it's Erdogan too. Erdogan's an asshole too. So can't lay all the blame at Donald Trump's feet. We might be in this situation if somebody else was in the Oval Office. So same deal. Because they're just not gonna, you know what I mean? The guy's been out of the country. He's lived in exile in the United States since the 1990s. So, yeah, who knows if he had anything to do with it or not? But like I said, General Flynn was an advisor, or did some consulting for Erdogan's government, probably about security and who knows what else. General Flynn also famously sat at the same table with Vladimir Putin and Jill Stein. Jill Stein, General Flynn, Vladimir Putin. Jill Stein finally explains photo of her at same table with General Flynn and Vladimir Putin. Right? And her candidacy basically helped to defeat Hillary. So, the plot thickens. So, there you go. But anyway, that's kind of a side note. So, yeah, I was already, I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. Donald Trump flushing the world economy down the toilet with a tweet, but it's about more than that. Erdogan's got a part to play here, so. And that's about it for now. More tomorrow. Probably pick it up here somewhere, and I'm just going to follow the threads. Follow the threads around the world. And that's it. My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this has been News from the Can. Thanks for watching. See you.